Hey, what's going on, guys? Phil here. So, last night I did a coaching session with Nabossi on Deathrattle Hunter. Deathrattle Hunter for the past 2, 3 expansion cycles have been a very strong deck, and so, the same core mechanics of the deck that have existed since Witchwood are still present in this Rastakhan's Rumble version of the deck. But in the first couple days of Rastakhan's Rumble, basically every hunter archetype that you could imagine is very good. Spell Hunter is incredible with Zul'jin. Deathrattle Hunter is still a strong staying power in this meta, and Board Control's Recruit Hunter has come out of nowhere with the introduction of Zul'jin, kind of taking the best of both worlds from both Spell and Deathrattle Hunter and combining those into one shell. So the first couple days of Rastakhan's has definitely been dominated by a Hunter metagame, and so we wanted to go in and see just how good Deathrattle Hunter still is, as well as if it's going to be a deck which stays in the meta for a while, which things are definitely bound to change since it's the first week of Rastakhan's. But I don't really see Deathrattle Hunter going away per se, because it's been strong for Witchwood, it's been strong for Boomsday, and now it looks like it's going to be even more powerful going into Rastakhan's. So essentially, Hunter is in a very, very good state right now. And last night with my coaching session, we went over 2 different lists, tried to get a little bit of a feel for both the more typical Deathrattle Hunter lists that are more reminiscent of the Boomsday period, and then also, some of the newer stuff that's being tried out with the release of the new cards. So the main list that we focused on was Altir's Deathrattle Hunter. It hit rank 4 legend by Altir in like the second or third day of Rumble, so it's a very strong list. The only thing that we changed, or that we considered changing from his original list, is we put in a Rotten Apple Bomb instead of a Savannah Highmane. The purposes of this were because there's a lot of hyper aggressive decks with Pirate, Kingsbane Rogue, as well as Zoo Warlock, rising through the ranks as everyone gets used to the new cards. People are playing a lot of slower decks, so these hyper aggro decks will definitely try and punish you. Um, and so getting that heal and the little bit of taunt is a good defensive option, especially considering that you can play dead or terror scale for the healing in situations where that is correct. So giving yourself that little just that extra out is potentially good. It's also strong with the Undertaker. So you play some Death Rattles because you're Death Rattle Hunter. You play Rotten Apple Bomb at some point, it dies, and your opponents kind of are gonna forget about it. They're like, oh, I wonder why he runs a Rotten Apple Bomb, whatever. But going into the late game, if you have the Undertaker and you're still able to save your playdeads for whatever reason or your Terror Scales, then you can get a ton of value out of proccing multiple Undertakers, and getting that recursive healing effect could be very strong. Because one of the ways that this deck loses is by getting zooed out, so having that little heal to help with burst is fairly strong to me. Also, the Savannah Highmane in this list, we're already running 1, 2, 3 like massive beasts along with the 2 Witchwood Grizzlies, so having the extra beast for Undasta is kind of nice. But the Savannah Highmane Death Rattle on the Undertaker is pretty underwhelming. A lot of the time, I'd rather get either a big taunt minion, the Charger, or the Rush from Undasta off my Katharina than getting a Savannah Highmane. So even though having more beasts is beneficial now that we run Undasta, I don't think that Savannah is the correct choice. I think if anything, if you're going to go for another big beast, you might want to pull out something like a Devil Soar or a Charged Devil Soar, or I don't know, something really big like a Giant Mastodon or an Amani Warbear, something that has immediate impact, because the Savannah just didn't feel particularly good in this list. But so with Altier's list, this was the list that we mainly focused upon in the coaching session. It's kind of the one that we decided was most likely stronger. It runs the Keleseth package, quote unquote, so it only runs Keleseth in the 2 drop slot. One of the things that was being experimented with like pre-Rastakhan's as like theorycraft, Zalay proposed that Scarabeg in Deathrattle Hunter is really strong, and we did some testing with that as well. It does turn out that Scarabeg is pretty good. It gives you a turn 2 play, and then on turn 3 you can terror scale it, and it helps you have those tokens to fight against more aggressive style decks. The problem is that against more control decks, you're just running two Scarabags, and they very rarely help you in those matchups. So, especially considering that you have the opportunity to run Kel'Seth in Standard right now, it's really hard to make any cuts just for one single 2-drop. I think going forward, once Standard rotation hits, and Kel'Seth rotates out, Scarabag, if Deathrattle Hunter is still an archetype that is trying to exist, is a fairly good option. It's really really strong against aggro decks. Being able to go turn 3, essentially get a 6/6 worth of stats with Terror Scale and then your 3/1/1s is really good. Having the little like weenie creatures to trade into 2/1s or 1/2s is pretty good. You don't have to waste a lot of damage on these minor threats. So, while right now it seems like the Scarabag list might not be as beneficial or like as optimal, it's definitely something to keep in mind as we go through the Rastakhan's Rumble metagame. So, if the meta becomes more and more aggressive, especially more tokeny, Token Druid is on the rise. Token Druid's one of the like highest win rate decks at the moment, even though there's not too many people playing it. Um, if those kind of style decks exist, then the Scarabag inclusion in Deathrattle Hunter could, help supplement its early game enough to be able to get through to its late game. But right now, there's lots of things going on in the meta, so it's a little bit hard to make these kind of more tech-based decisions. Um, but essentially, that was really all we did with the coaching session. Is we went over these two new lists, we played some games, and we discussed the other archetypes, so like Spell Hunter and Board Controls, Recruit Hunter. But we didn't go into any, in-depth. We didn't do any gameplay. We didn't do any really coaching on those lists. So I'm gonna leave those for another day with another person. But yeah, that's essentially all we did. You still play Deathrattle Hunter the same way you played Deathrattle Hunter before. You go, Kel'Seth, Egg, get some 5/5s, get to the late game, make some beasts until you win the game. It's just now you have a lot more supplemental things in your late game to help with the massive control threats. So it seems, like a deck that's definitely going to stick around. And of course, if the metagame does become more aggressive in future, there's different techs you can do to try and, supplement your early game. So I do not really see Deathrattle Hunter going away. And I expect it to be very strong all the way throughout the Rastakhan's Rumble metagame. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you want, you can go and check out the really long stream video with the coaching session, and make sure to check out every other video too if that's your cup of tea. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. It's pretty cool. It helps the numbers go up. It helps us get out to more people, so that's really fun. But do as you please. I'm not trying to push for that much. I just like making the content. So if you happen to know anyone that wants to, see this kind of content, make sure to pass it around. And yeah, we're gonna be planning on streaming almost every day in the mornings from typically around 9:30 to like 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time over at the Twitch channel. So Twitch channel is in the description if you want to go and hit that with a follow. We're doing lots of theory crafting, lots of testing of different like lists and styles of lists with new cards, especially with the Rastakhan's Rumble coming out literally like 4 days ago. So yeah, if that interests you at all, make sure to check out that, and I'll see you guys next video.